All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Kuf Mem Daled, but today's goal, as we mentioned earlier, Tisha B'Av is later this week. One is forbidden from having certain pleasures on Tisha B'Av, one of which is learning Torah, and therefore learning Torah besides things related to the Churban is not permitted, so therefore we're going to miss a blot on Tisha B'Av. However, we'd like to go ahead and basically get ahead so we don't fall too far behind. So we're going to try and get to the Mishnah on the top of Kuf Mem Hey Amud Beis. So that is today's goal. So let's start off where we left off yesterday. So we left off at the bottom of Kuf Mem Daled Amud Aleph, 3 lines in the bottom. So Ashkan Rabbi Yehuda D'Maydil Rabban B'Zeis V'Nafim. So we had a machlokes in our Mishnah regarding juice that comes out, even if it comes out by itself. Let's say from fruits. So we said, but when it comes to olives and grapes, those are unique in that the fact that those are basically normally used for the purposes of squeezing. So therefore, any juice that comes from it is forbidden. And Rabbi Yehuda says it depends whether they were set aside for eating or they were set aside for squeezing, for making juice later on. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yehuda, we said, agrees with the Rabbanan that it's always forbidden when it comes to olives and grapes. And Rabbanan, the Maidla Rabbi Yehuda b'shar peiros minal. And how do we know that Rabbanan agree that perhaps when it comes to other fruits besides grapes and olives, that perhaps that it depends what the purpose is. If the person is eating, maybe the juices should not be forbidden. So the Tanya in advice it says seichtin. So one is allowed to go ahead and squeeze. In other words, one is able to go ahead and squeeze plums or these different types of, I guess, like crab apples or types of apples. But you can't go ahead and squeeze on Shabbos pomegranates. V'shel beis Menashia bar Menachem hayu seichtim v'rimayim. In the house of Menashia bar Menachem, they used to go ahead. And during the week, they used to go ahead and take pomegranates and use it they would squeeze the pomegranates for pomegranate juice, right? Was it POM? I think that's the name of that drink, POM, right? Pomegranate juice, POM. So they used to do it. So therefore, we see that those things, that the pomegranates are normally used for juice. And therefore, since they're normally used for juice, so it's usher. So we see over here, but the other ones are mutter. So the other ones are mutter. So we see that Rabbanan hold like the Rabbi Yehuda. So we might the Rabbanan. Who says it's Rabbanan? Maybe Dilma Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe it's the only reasons why it's mutter is because it's according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So Gar says, Vitavi Nami Rabbi Yehuda. Even if you say it's Rabbi Yehuda, even though she said Rabbi Yehuda Yatzmei Atzman Seichtin Chachila Mishmiaslei. So that which Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yehuda was only talking about if the juice came out by itself. But if Rabbi Yehuda never said one could go ahead and squeeze it out, so why could one go ahead and squeeze it out? Elamai Sechalam Nemer. So there's a chiddush here. Why can you go ahead and squeeze these other things? You can go ahead and squeeze because people don't normally drink them. Since people don't normally drink them, it's not a mashka. So when is schita aser? Remember schita is a tolot of dash, right? From the malacha of from threshing, right? So one goes ahead and basically when you thresh, you extract something from something else, right? Normally so schita is you're taking a beverage and taking that from a food, okay? Since you take a beverage from a food. Now, if I'm not doing that, I'm taking a food from a food or a beverage from a beverage, that is not violating schita. So since over here, we're talking about the apples that they're never used for schita. They're never used, no one drinks crab apple juice. So therefore, when I squeeze and there's juice that comes out of the crab apples, I'm not extracting a beverage from it. I'm just making the food, liquid food. Same thing if I go ahead and squeeze my macaroni and cheese, right? And it, comes out, there's juice that comes out, right? That doesn't make it a beverage, right? That's just, right, you're just taking food and squeezing your food and making liquid food. So therefore, that would be mutter over here. That's why since it's not normal ever squeezed for the purpose of making a beverage, therefore it's mutter. And I feel Rabbanan, you can say the Rabbanan. So since these types of apples and other fruits are not used for squeezing, shmamina Rabbanan he shmamina. So therefore, we see that indeed the Rabbanan would agree in a case of something which is not used to go ahead and normally is not you never drink it, you never drink the juice. So therefore, it would be mutter to go ahead and do it on Shabbos, and therefore those things that normally are not squeezed on Shabbos, certainly if they come out on themselves, it would be mutter. Now, Then we said, Shel Beis Menashe Bar Menachem Yisachim Le'Roim. They used to go ahead and squeeze the pomegranates even during the week, and so therefore it proves that therefore the pomegranate juice was usher. What it says, Amar Rav Nachman, Halakha Shel Beis Menashe Bar Menachem. What are we saying? The halakha is like him, right? So excuse me. So says Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says he makes the statement. Sorry. So halakha Kashel Beis Menashe Bar Menachem. The halacha is like them, that the pomegranates are used for squeezing, and therefore it's usher to use the juice on Shabbos. So Amalei Rabbi Rav Nachman Menashe ben Menachem Tana. Who is he a Tana? No, why should the halacha be just be like the house of Menashe Bar Menachem? So if you want to say halacha ki hay Tana Savarlo Kishel Menashe ben Menachem. Right? You maybe want to say that halacha is like the Tana who holds like Menashe ben Menachem. So Mishum the Savar Menashe ben Menachem halacha. So just because he holds like he holds like Menashe ben Menachem halacha is like him. Menashe ben Menachem havi ruba dalma. So just because they squeeze it and used to go ahead and drink pomegranate juice makes all pomegranate juice of the world become usher because it's a liquid, right? It's used as a drink. Who says? In other words, what is so important by the fact that this one person or one household used to go ahead and do it? So Gemara says, yeah, by the fact that we said some people do it, maybe we do say now, maybe that should be usher throughout the Alma. Why? But tonight we're going to Mishnah, Makayim, Kaitzim, Mekerem. One who goes ahead and he's Makayim, he keeps, basically he grows his thorns in the in a vineyard. Now, one is not allowed to go ahead and sow something else in a vineyard besides his grapes, such as wheat. Or what about one who goes and grows thorns? Right, he grows thorns which are not normally kept. Right, those are not normally grown by people. So one who goes ahead and grows thorns in his vineyard. So Rabbi Elazar Omer Kidesh is considered to be usher. It's considered to be kilam mikar because people grew it there. No. That what you say you can't sow with grapes or with vines is only something that people normally sow. So people don't normally grow thorns. So therefore, thorns is not a problem according to Chaim. So Amar Rabbi Chanina, my time of the Rabbi Elazar. What's the reason according to Rabbi Elazar? So Shechem Arabia. Because out in Arabia, right, I guess the Arab areas, Arabia, they used to go ahead and grow thorns in order to go ahead and feed it to their camels. So we see that since in some areas, right, according to laws, since some areas it was grown, it was for keeping, i.e. to feed their camels, therefore it makes a chashuv. So to our case, right? Our case, since we see that pomegranate juice was used by the house of Beit Menashe, so therefore it makes it pomegranate juice, and therefore that's the reason to aser it, because it's now extracting a beverage, a mashka, from a food, and therefore there'll be aser and Shabbos. Gemara says, "Midari, dari, but asra hachabat l'daita it's a adam." Well, first of all, it's different. Arabia is an area. Right, so it's a large region, and over here you're just talking about one household. So how can you compare the two? Say because Arabi they did this, the same as Menashe having the pomegranate juice. So Elohain the Talmud Rav Chiza. What's the call Rav Chiza? Dam Rav Chiza. Tradin shesachton sana b'mikvah. Another case. We're going to soon have machlokes as to how to understand this case. But talking about a case of if a person goes ahead and he squeezes beets into a mikvah. Now beets are red, goes into a mikvah, so it changes the color. So if he goes ahead and squeezes into a mikvah, poison is a mikvah b'shunei yimara. Right? It passes the mikvah if it changes its color. So understand, why should it pass it, right? So beets, one does not normally drink beet juice. So why, in other words, only a mashke, only a drink should be something that passes a mikvah. Why are we saying something crushing a beet, right, which liquid comes out, what makes that, why should that pass the mikvah? So it's machlokes el ma'isachel. Neymar, right? Since by the person he's going ahead to squeeze it, right? He's basically showing that he wants beet juice, so therefore he's making it a mashka. So to over here, so too over here, by him, the fact that he's squeezing it, right? He's showing that he wants to go ahead and use it as a mashka. Right, and therefore, as Rashi explains over here, which the Gemara doesn't speak out, but the Rashi explains over here that so therefore, since in Beit Menashe they used to go ahead and squeeze the Rimainim, even though it was certain people, it wasn't everybody, but since people go ahead and they squeeze it out in order to, says over there, it says Rashi Lamasek Hapri, in order to go ahead and sweeten the fruit, right? So therefore, it wasn't necessarily mean that since they had it as a beverage, therefore everyone did. Rather, it means that people went ahead and squeezed it, right? They squeezed it not necessarily to make it a mashka. It's not a mashka, right? But they used to go ahead and squeeze the pomegranates in order to sweeten the pomegranates, and therefore they would go ahead and squeeze it. And since people would squeeze it, therefore we don't say that the juice that comes out by itself is mutter, because it might cause people to go ahead and squeeze them on Shabbos. So therefore it wasn't necessarily the fact that since these people did it, but we see that since there are even individuals who go ahead and squeeze pomegranate juice in order to sweeten it, therefore that would be a reason to aser pomegranate juice itself on Shabbos. So that was explaining that. And by the way, there's another interpretation of this brisa. It's not just because we say that since someone had and squeezed beets, it means that it's chashuv to him. So Rav Papa Amar, no, because what's the reason why it passes it? Because it's considered to be something that one cannot go ahead and make a mikvah out of, right? It's not considered to be, it's a mashka, but it's not a mashka of water. And therefore, anything which you do not make a mikvah from, right? It passes the mikvah if it changes its appearance. And Tanan Hasan. So what about another case? We learned over there, it says in a Mishnah, it says, Nafal Seichel Yayin, a person, let's say, it falls into the mikvah, wine, or chaymetz. Chaymetz is vinegar. Umeichel. Umeichel is like, it's not olive oil, but it's like the water that comes out of the olives before the olive oil, right? So it's like olive water. Umeichel v'shina marach, and it changes the appearance of the mikvah. Puzzle. The mikvah is now puzzle. So man tam the meichel mashka. Who is the opinion holds that meichel is a mashka? Now it has to be so according to here in this Mishnah, right? This Mishnah goes with the pshat that in order to change if something changes the appearance of the mikveh pasul, it has to be a mashka. It has to be an actual beverage and not just something which is liquid, right? It has to be something which is a mashka, which is people use as a drink. So Samantha the meichel mashka. So Rabbi Yaakov, it's a pit of Rabbi Yaakov. The time when Rabbi Yaakov Aimer meichel harehu kamashka. He says the beferish. Rabbi Yaakov says the meichel, this olive water, is considered to be a mashka, a drink, right? And what's the reason why that one squeezing olives, right? The initial water comes out as tahor. Now, normally, if something is a mashka, it's a settled to tuma, right? Since it's a settled to tuma, it should be metame, right? So why does it say over there? What's the reason why you say meichel when it first comes out is going to be tahor? Right? Because the owner does not want it to come out. Since the owner doesn't want to come out, that's the reason to say it is tahor. And Rabbi Shimon Aimer, no, meichel eino kamashka. Meichel is not considered to be a mashka. However, matamam meichel yetziv equal based about tamei. But nevertheless, even though it's not a mashka, it is tamei. It is tamei from the base abad. Because you don't have any sort of this olive water without some oil in it. So therefore, since sorry, hello. No, sorry about that. I got a call in the middle, right? So since we say that there's oil, right, in the olive water, even though the olive water itself is tahor, but since there's olive oil in it, therefore it's tamei. So what's the difference between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yaakov, right? So what's the difference between them? So our answer is Ika Benayu, the Asi Basar Itzasta, right? So we said over there that if it comes out from, I guess later on when all the olives are upon one another, so therefore that would be nafmina. So even though that there is no oil there, right? So therefore, according to the opinion, there's oil there, therefore there's no oil, it would be tower. But according to the other opinion, that which he doesn't want it, so therefore in such a case, therefore it would be in that case it would be tahor according to him. Now, Rav Omar and Rabbi Yaakov therefore would say it would be a mashka, and Rabbi Shimon would say it's not. And Rav Omar mishum dahavi davar shein oisin himene mikvah says no. Paisas a mikvah b'shina mar says no. He says no. Back to the case over there in the case of the meichel. So what's the reason why the meichel passes it? He says it's considered to be something you don't make the mikvah from, and it passes the mikvah with any shinui mara. So therefore, in such a case, that's the reason why we said earlier that meichel, along with the other two, are yayin or chaymetz, pass the mikvah because it's something considered that you don't make a mikvah from, and changes shinui mara. Fine. Now, new case, right? So now new topic. And actually, it's a halacha l'maisa topic. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel.
Yo.
Yeah.
Real quick. So where are we now? What's
right? So
question about Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda? I get it. Okay, so what's
so right? So the Gemara went right. The Gemara went ADD on it, right? Right. So we started off with the Gemara, right, with the machlokes between whether juice that comes out, right, whether that one even on its own, whether one could use it or not. That was actually from our Mishnah. So then we had a case of what cases do they argue on between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan.
Right.
They agree on, everyone agrees that's all usher when it comes to olives and grapes, and then shar, other pairs are mutter, right? And that, in order to bring that point out, right, we brought this to bring the point out that the Rabbana agreed with Rabbi Yehuda. We brought out the case, the brisa of Beis Menashe. Once we brought the Beis Menashe, we were puzzled as to why the halacha is like them, just like Beis Menashe. So we proved that there was a reason because it was people used to do it for sweetening it. Okay. And then we wanted another proof as to. Then we brought the proof of what's that? Right? That. If so, we brought out a point that since something is used by a minority of people as a beverage, it makes it a beverage, right? And that was proven from the case of the mikvah. And once we got into the mikvah, then we had to explain all the opinions as to why the mikvah was possible in that case. Okay, that's what we're holding. All right, so now, so now on the bottom of Kuf Mem Daled Amud. Kufan Dalam Beis, so like 6 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Seichet Adam Eshkol Shal Nevim L'Seich Hagdera Aval L'Seich Lo L'Seich Hakara. Right. This is also halach l'maisa. A person is allowed to go ahead and squeeze grapes. Right. Squeeze the fruit that's normally squeezed for its juice into a pot which has food in it. Right. You're squeezing it into food, but you can't go ahead and squeeze it into an empty bowl. And Amar Rav Chizda Medivrei Rabbeinu Nilmad, Chaylev Adam Eiz L'Seich Hagdera Aval L'Seich Hakara. Once again, a person could also go ahead and he could milk an eiz, a goat, right, into a dish, right, but not into an empty bowl, right? Not to an empty bowl, because when you go ahead and you put it, so what's the reason? Alma, what's the reason, says the Gemara? Big nafkamina. When you go ahead and you take this liquid, right, that you're squeezing the grapes or you squeeze lemon or whatever you're squeezing, and it goes into food, that which the liquid's coming out is food. You're just adding food to food, right? You're not eating it as a liquid. You're not drinking it because it's becoming part of your dish. If it's becoming part of your dish, it's called oichel. But if I put it into an empty bowl or a cup, then I'm showing it's a mashka. So therefore, if I extract food from food, that's not a problem of schita. If I extract a beverage or a drink from food, that's called schita. So therefore, it's a huge nafkamina, right? So now therefore, you're allowed to go ahead and extract, right, food from food. You can make food into liquid and into another food, but you can't go ahead and basically put it into an empty bowl because then you're making it into a mashka, into a drink.
But wait, according to that means I could take my lemon and squeeze it onto my fish.
So according to this, right,
I could squeeze lemon onto fish because it's a machal to machal now.
Exactly, right. But you can't put it into a bowl and then take the bowl and pour it, wherever you want. You can't make lemon juice. Let's see. We're actually going to talk about squeezing fish also. So Meisiv, Rabbi Rechama says Zav Shecholev Esaiz Hachelev Tameh. Now, if Zav, right, somebody who's a Zav, he is a seminal drip, he's Tomei, right, and he's milking a goat, right? So the milk is Tomei. Now, if he's going ahead and he's basically doing it into a kadera, into a bowl, something which has food in it, is kasher. It's food into food. There is no mashka. In order to make something hechsher tuma, it needs to come in contact with the liquid. There's no liquid here, right? Because we just said it's eichel. It's not considered to be a mashka. So Gemara answers no, because Rabbi Yechon, like Rabbi Yechon's in another case, but if you have some, basically there's a drop of water which is remaining there from previous milking, right, from on the udder. So over here, so over here we'll say that there is a drop of milk on top of the udder. Therefore, it's considered to be that is the liquid that will be matame the others. Ravina has a kasha. It says tamei meishes, similar kasha. So Tamei Meis, if you have a person who's Tamei Meis, right, came in contact with a dead body, and he's squeezing olives or grapes, kibetza mechuvenis. It's exactly a kibetza. Now, kibetza is the shear of Tamei Meis. If it's anything less than it, okay, then it becomes Torah. It loses its tuma. Now, once he squeezes out one drop. Now, remember, you need the drop to be hechsher the tuma, right? But when I squeeze the drop, now this grape or olive, whatever, is no longer the size of a kibetza, is now less than a kibetza, less than a shear. So therefore, it's Torah. By definition, you can't have both a drop extracted from an exact kibetza with the kibetza still being kibetza. It's not a source of tuma anymore, right? So yaisem kibetza. But if it's more, right, than a kibetza, so when the drop comes out, it is tamei, right? Now, now same kasha. If you say that any mashka that comes out into food is not considered to be liquid or food, so therefore there's no mashka here. Kasha, how can we come? Sure. So when he goes ahead and he squeezes it into a bowl, right? So therefore, since he's squeezing into a bowl, he's making it into a mashka. So therefore, there's mashka right outside these grapes or the olives. Therefore, that is what is being the machshir the tumah. And Omar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Rabbi Yirmiyah Ketanai. It's a machlokes Ketanai. I will assume basically machlokes throughout this Amud. So machalik ba'anav. One who goes ahead and a person is baking bread and he wants to go ahead and basically put on top of the crust, shine up the crust, take a nice olive or grape juice, right, and put it outside on the crust. So lo hukshar. It's not hukshar because it's not considered to be a liquid. Therefore, it does not go ahead and make it susceptible to tumah. No, hukshar. No, it is hukshar. It is considered. So my laba, what's the machlokes here? The one who holds that, one opinion holds that this grape juice, which is going on the crust of the bread, since it's going on to food, is considered to be food, and therefore be tahor. And the other opinion holds, that even though there's grape juice going on the bread, nevertheless it's considered to be a mashka, and therefore it is making it hechsher. It is making it susceptible to tumah, and therefore it would be tamei. So Amarav Papa, no. The kuli alma mashka lo eichel lav eichelhu. No, maybe you could say this. Everybody agrees that in this case, maybe you could say the opposite. The mashka that is going to the case of the food is not considered to be food. It's still considered to be a beverage, is a mashka, right? Over here, they're saying whether since this mashka is going to be lost, right? It's going to be thrown away. It's not going to be used at all, right? It basically goes onto the crust, it goes in the oven, and it's gone, poof, right? So therefore, it's habal ibu. So ma'asavar mashku, once hold, it's still nevertheless it's still considered a mashku. Ma'asavar, no, lav mashku, since it's going to evaporate inside the oven, so therefore it's not considered to be a mashku. Uba where do we see this another similar machlokes? Tonight, maybe it's the same machlokes as another case. The person is going ahead and he's basically a person is squeezing olives. Right, with hands that he didn't wash his hands. His hands are shnuyos. We're guys are the hands that they're. This is the reason why we wash before we have certain things. So the guy did not wash his hands, and he's squeezing them. Right, he's squeezing them. So hukshar, right, he's squeezing them because he wants the juices to come out. So I'm about to say hukshar. So therefore we say that is hukshar. However, melach. If he wants to go ahead and use it, basically squeeze them in order to dip them into salt, right? And in order, he squeezes it a little bit just so basically they get a little wet, but not necessarily, he's not squeezing to take out the juices. He's not squeezing, like we said earlier, basically make it sweeter, right? Just taking out so maybe there's a little bit moist, and therefore the salt will stick to them. Lo hukshar, that's not considered to be taking beverage, right? Because over there, that's not a mashka you want. You don't want the mashka, right? You're not looking for the juice or the oil. You're just looking for it, be able the salt to stick to it. However, if you squeeze them, or rather he's squeezing whether to see whether they're ready to go in terms of harvesting them. So lo hukshar, right? Then there's that hukshar and Rabbi Huda Omer hukshar. Rabbi Huda, so that in that case, That's a machlokes whether it's considered to be huksher l'tumah or not. So my lab is this not the same machlokes? The marsa mashka homi the ibud mashka one holds that even though it's going to waste, and I was just squeezing to see whether they're ready to be harvested. So since that which he's squeezing and the liquid comes out, it's going to be lost. It's not going to be saved or used. So therefore, that's considered mashka. Therefore, be tamei. Marsa lab mashka. The one holds is not a mashka. So he says no. I'm Rav Huna b'rei Dav Yeshua. No. Hani tonight two several machlokes. One in the case over here is yes. This over here we're talking about whether or this oil will go to waste. So therefore, that's the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama. The Hinach tonight, another case over there when I was talking about putting basically the grape juice on the outside of the bread before it's baked. Over here, we're talking about liquid that's going to be used for it to shine. And therefore, that's machlokes whether liquid going to be used to shine is still considered to be liquid. If it's qualified as a liquid, then it is huksha l'tumah. And if not, it would not be huksha l'tumah. And Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rab Chia Barashi, Amar Rav. Now, Seichet Adam Eshkol Shal Navin L'Sechek we saw earlier, a person allowed to go ahead and squeeze grapes, right, into a cooked dish, right, into a food, about loy l'Sechek Kara, but not into an empty bowl. The dog, letziro afilu seichakara. A person can go ahead and it can squeeze a fish, right, for the fish brine, even into an empty bowl. Even into an empty bowl, you're allowed to go ahead and do it, right? L'chayra, why? Because he's maybe the liquid is not considered to be a drink. It's considered basically making food, taking food from food, and therefore food from a food it would be mutter. So Yosef, so that was said. Now all of this was said b'shem Rav, right? It was Rav Zera, Amar Reb Chia, Barashi, Amar Rav. Right now, Yosef Rav Dimi v'kamer leila shmait. So he said this over. Amar leila Rabbi Rav Dimi. Asin mishmei Rav. Mastin sin v'loy kash lechu. You guys said this all in the name of Rav, and it was no problem, right? There was no kash at all. However, Anan mishmei the Shmuel mastin sin v'kashlan. However, we said this b'shem Shmuel. Right, and actually, it created a kasha for us. Why? And did Shmuel say one is allowed to go ahead and squeeze a fish into an empty bowl and we mutter? We learn over there. So kvashim, we're talking about two cases of pickled vegetables and cooked vegetables, right? Now, or boiled vegetables. Now, kvashim shesachton. If you have these pickled vegetables that were squeezed. So Amarav, Lugufan Mutter Lememen Pachavalaster. If it's for themselves, and as you're squeezing them, the pickled one, in order to go ahead and be able to eat the pickled vegetables, then it's mutter because you're not doing it to extract the juice. However, if you're doing it because you want the pickle juice, right, then it's aser. Pachavalaster. So when it comes to vegetables that were boiled, Bein Lugufan Bein Lemeyan Mutter. It's always mutter. So that was the opinion of Rav. So Rav said those are always mutter when it comes to boiled vegetables. Shmuel Amar, and what does Shmuel say? Shmuel says echal kavashim echal shlakos, whether it's boiled or pickled, legufan mutter, lemeimen pater v'laser, right? If it's doing it for the Jews, then it's pater v'laser. So according to Shmuel, how could you? According to Rav, it's okay because you can say it's similar to the case of what's it called of cooked vegetables, right? Because he said it's always mutter. But however, according to Shmuel, right, he says if you're doing it for the juice, it'd be usher. So how could Shmuel hold that you can go ahead and squeeze a fish for the fish juice, for the fish brine? So says, my goodness, Eini Rov Loizar, right? My eyes saw, and it was not a zar, it was not a stranger. In other words, it was exactly what I heard. I heard from Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rab Zera, Rab Zera, Rab Zera, Rab Chia Barashi, and Rab Chia heard from the words of Rab Chia Barashi, Rab Chia Barashi, Rab Chia Barashi heard it from Rav himself, and therefore, that which you thought Shmuel said it, Shmuel was not the one who said it. It was the opinion of Rav. Rav was on who held throughout. You can go ahead and squeeze a fish, and therefore even into a bowl, and that's only according to Rav. So now Gufa. So Kvashim. So speaking of which we just mentioned, we have a three-way machlokas. So Kvashim shesachtan, when it comes to going ahead and squeezing something which is pickled, Amarav legufa and mutter lememen patav alaser. If it's for itself, in other words, for the pickled vegetable, because you don't want it as juicy, so therefore it's mutter. But if you're doing it for the pickled juice, then it's also midrabanan. The shlakos, and if those that were boiled, ben legufa lememen mutter. Whether or not it's for them or for the juice, it's mutter. Ushmul amar echad zeh v'echad zeh legufa mutter lememen patav alaser. Right. Either way, whether it's you're doing it for them for the boiled vegetables itself or to extract the juice out, it's always mutter. The gufan for himself is mutter, but if it's for the mayim, it's for the juice of the pickled or for the vegetables, then it's pater v'lasser. And Rabbi Yochanan says, "Echad kvashi bechal shlakos legufan mutter l'mein chayiv chatas." He says it's mutter to do it legufan, right? If it's for themselves, you don't want to be so juicy. That's fine. However, if you do it for its juice, right, then it's not even chayiv midrabanan. That is your chayiv chatas. It's asur midaraisa. So over here we're going to have a kasha to all three of them, and each one's going to explain according to their own shittas. Now, when it comes to going ahead and squeezing pickled vegetables on Shabbos, l'tzarech Shabbos, to use on Shabbos, you can go ahead and do it on Shabbos, but not for Motzei Shabbos. When it comes to olives and, so that was for pickled, right, pickled vegetables. When it comes to olives and grapes, you go ahead and you squeeze it, then you chayv chatas. So kasha the Rav, kasha the Shmuel, kasha the Rabbi Yochanan. So all of them are kasha, because it says over there, you can do it for any reason, pickled ones, for the tzarech Shabbos, for any need on Shabbos. And we didn't say it's mutter always according to all of them. So Rav tar satame, Shmuel tar satame, and Rabbi Yochanan tar satame. Rav, so all three can actually answer the brisa. So Rav tar satame, seichli kavashim Shabbos, the tzarech Shabbos, the Motzei Shabbos. That what you say? You can go ahead and squeeze pickled vegetables for the tzarech Shabbos, but not for Motzei Shabbos. But legufan, only for themselves. In other words, if you want it. But if you go ahead and squeeze it to extract the juices you want, pickle juice, all right, patav alaser. Shlakas, when it comes to boiled vegetables, bein the gufa, bein the meya mutter, and when it comes to boiled vegetables, then we say eat for any reason, it's mutter. However, when it comes to zaytiv anavim, la yischa, those should go ahead and do. Go ahead and squeeze it. V'im sachtan chayiv chatas. You go ahead and squeeze it out, then you're a chayiv chatas. So that agrees completely with the opinion of Rav. And Shmuel also matar satame. He explains the shitasa. Second kavashim Shabbos l'tzarech Shabbos. You can go ahead and squeeze pickled on Shabbos l'tzarech Shabbos, and huadin l'shlakos. So too, boiled vegetables. That's only if it's for itself, so it's not so juicy. But if you're doing it for the pickle juice or the boiled vegetable juice, then it's asur midrabanan. When it comes to olives and grapes, then you should not go ahead and squeeze it out. You do go ahead and squeeze it. And Rabbi Yochanan says, you can go ahead and squeeze the pickled vegetables for the use of Shabbos, but not Motzei Shabbos. And echad kvashim echad shlakos, both when it comes to the boiled ones and the pickled ones, but more only we're talking about legufan. But when it comes to the liquid, if you do it for the liquid, then you should squeeze it. If you do go ahead and squeeze it, therefore it's just like squeezing olives and grapes, and therefore one is chayv chatas. So therefore each one was able to explain the brisa exactly according to the shita. And Amar Reb Chiba bar Ashi Amar Rav, another thing Reb Chiba bar Ashi said the name of Rav, Davar Torah Eino Chayiv El Adrisas Zeisiv Anavim Bilvad. One is only chayiv for pressing olives and grapes, midaraisa, everything else is midarabanan. So too is taught. So also taught by the Menashe. And what else is taught? The ein aid mipi aid kosher ella le'edas isha bilvad. And also you can't have the testimony of aid mipi aid, right? A witness saying I heard from another witness only when it comes to the testimony about a woman. A testimony about a woman means that a woman was married to a man, and the man went overseas, and we don't know what happened to the man. If somebody heard from somebody else, almost hearsay, that the man died in some other way, so therefore, in order to matter her from being an aguna, therefore we permit her to go. We follow that testimony. So the question was asked: what about when it comes to the testimony about a bechor? Now, a bechor, you give the firstborn animal to a kohen, but the kohen has to offer it as a bechor, right? However, if there is a mum, then the kohen can use it for himself. He doesn't have to go ahead and offer it. So you need testimony about the mum came naturally and was a permanent mum. It can't just be because the kohen himself wants there to be a mum. So maybe he gave the blemish. So therefore we need basically testimony that the blemish came on its own. So what if I heard from another witness, right? I heard basically hearsay. I heard from somebody else who saw that. Can I testify that I heard from somebody else who saw it? when it comes to the testimony of the Bechor. So Ravami Asir, Ravasi Shari. So Ravami says Asir, and Ravasi says it's Mutter. So Amalei Ravami Ravasi, V'hotana Menashe, Ein Eid P8, Kashalei is Isha Bilvad. I thought we only said Eid P8 when it comes to testimony about a woman in order to permit her from being in a guna, right? To say that her husband died. But we didn't say when it comes to the testimony about the blemish of a Bechor. Maybe it means any testimony that a woman can testify. Since a woman can't testify in court, but she can testify regarding a blemish, so too they should be able to go ahead and testify also regarding a blemish. Rav Yemar was matir when it comes to Ein when it comes to Bechor, and Karli Meimar Yemar Shari Bucha. And therefore, since he was makel about it, they used to call him Yemar, the matering of Bechor. The Hilchos Halach is Ein P8 kosher to Bechor. Ein P8 is kosher to a Bechor. Now, finally, one last thing. I know it's very late. We're just 2 more minutes. So we said Choz Devash. A person goes ahead and he cuts honeycombs before Shabbos, and then the honey starts to ooze out on Shabbos. So we had Machlekes over there. The Chachamim say it's Aser, even that honey on Shabbos, and Rabbi Elazar says it's Mutter. So if you ask Rabbi Yishim in the Hardia, also the Vaisim Masin Tzibiyah, he actually had another this price in his hand. It said Zeisim V'Anavim Sharis Kamev Shabbos. Same thing, but regarding the honeycomb, but he said it regarding olives and grapes if they were basically cut before Shabbos. And they started to ooze out the oil and the juice on Shabbos, and Asur, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Matir, and Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon Matir. So very similar machlokes, but this wasn't talking about the chopping of honeycombs, rather it's talking about the chopping of olives and grapes. So what's the chiddush here? Right? You just give me another name, because our Mishnah only said Rabbi Elazar. Over here it says Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon Matir. So you're just coming to add a name. Some of they buy? No. Tuba Kamashma. Actually, no, big chiddush here. Tima Masnis, and if it's our Mishnah have a Mina Hasam, who maybe over there, our Mishnah Rabbi Elazar says Mutter, the Mikara Uchla, Uchla. In the beginning, when he chopped it, it was honey, right? It was a honeycomb, which is honey, and the end it was honey, right? It was food from food. But over here, the Mikara Uchla, over here, when he chopped in the beginning, he chopped olives and grapes, which is Eicha, which is food, La Saif Mashka, but in the end, right, it was oil and juice. It was a mashka. Maybe that's a bigger chiddush. Maybe that's more of a reason to say it's osir, because now it's like a new entity on Shabbos. Say malo. I would say maybe they would agree with the chachamim. Kamash malo. They also agree that say it is still mutter to go ahead since you went ahead and chopped it on erev Shabbos. Shekayach, everybody. We'll stop here. Everyone have a wonderful day, and tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we will pick up from here.